Welcome to this localization safety warning. Localization managers oversee the production of language service products that they often can't read. When professionals can't read the language of the product they produce, an appropriate minimal level of qualifications and skills becomes especially important. Consider this safety warning. This safety warning is part of the localized translation that will be delivered to the client. Do you know what language that is? Do you know what that safety warning says? If you don't read this language, you won't be able to tell if the translation is accurate or if it matches what the source content says. Here is what the source content says. This safety warning is part of a user manual for a dangerous piece of heavy machinery. Note that English readers of the source content are warned that if they don't understand how to properly operate this piece of machinery, adverse effects might include damages to property, physical injury, and death. So if the localization team doesn't get the translation right, that jeopardizes the safety of target users who can't understand the instructional text. This risk is true for many high-pressure domains, such as medicine, nuclear power, and immigration, to name a few. A mistranslation in a legal text may lead to unfair judgments. Marketing content that has not been properly localized may damage a firm's reputation in a target market beyond recovery. If the translation of the safety warning is assigned to a translator who does not have adequate qualifications, the translated product is doomed from the start. Still, the translator is just one professional in a long localization production chain. The content will pass through various stages, including specification, quoting, preparation, TEP, that's short for translation, editing, and proofreading, formatting, in-context review, and delivery. If the content is not handled properly at any stage of the process, that compromises the quality of the final deliverables, because salespeople negotiate with clients for the budgets and timelines necessary to produce quality localization products. If they don't understand what goes into producing the product we sell, we might not have adequate budgets, or the risks associated with rushing sensitive content through localization may not get explained to clients. Localization engineers and desktop publishers format the translated content delivered by the translator. If they can't read the language and don't understand how the formatting of languages differs from one language to another, they may accidentally introduce errors into the content. Quality managers check the content for a variety of issues, such as for terminology, correct date and time formats, punctuation, etc. If they can't read the language, they may accidentally introduce errors into the content. Localization project managers should understand, anticipate, and plan for issues that arise when localizing content from one unique culture to another. If they don't, issues may arise late in the production process, which could have been prevented. In the rush to fix those issues and still make delivery on time, inconsistencies or errors may accidentally be introduced into the content. If any localizer mishandles the content at any stage, that compromises the quality of the localized product. Compromises to quality impede users' ability to understand the product. In the case of this user manual, the target user needs to be able to understand the translation to operate this heavy machinery safely. Our safety warning has been translated into Khmer. Khmer is undoubtedly an interesting language for many reasons. For localization management, localizers need to take an interest in Khmer word processing, how Khmer is typed out using a computer keyboard. Depending on the font used, Khmer must be typed using a different keyboard configuration. To produce a text in the Limon font, for example, Khmer needs to be typed out using the keyboard configuration on the right. To produce a text in the Khmer OS font, the keyboard configuration on the left needs to be used. Why is this important to localizers? Well, let's say at the start of translation, a Khmer translator who is new to your organization asks you what font they should type the translation in. You don't know why the question they've asked is important, and you tell the translator to work in whatever font they want. The translator chooses to type out the translation in a font that can be produced using a keyboard configuration they are most used to working with. They make delivery. You take the content through production, then you deliver to the client. The client tries to import the Khmer translations into a software application. Unfortunately, the font doesn't display correctly. Many of the characters have been replaced with tofu, question marks, and strange circles. The client asks for help. It turns out they need content in a Unicode font for the translations to display correctly in the software. You try to change the font to a Unicode font manually by selecting all of the text and then selecting a Unicode font, just like you would do in many languages. You ask the translator for help changing the font. The translator responds, "I can't just change the font. If you need a different font, I'll have to retype the whole thing using a different keyboard configuration." When tight deadlines for software launches are the norm, you don't want to learn of this very important aspect of the Khmer language after you've already delivered the product to your client. In this scenario, the entire production, from TEP, formatting, in-context review, delivery, would need to be started from scratch. Back to the safety warning in Khmer. The red arrows point to Mojibaki, or the garbled text that is the result of text being decoded using an unintended character encoding, according to Wikipedia. That is, the correct characters that should be where the red arrows are pointing have been replaced with circles that have no meaning. Remember that this translation should warn Cambodian users of dangers to their lives if they don't follow the operating instructions. If no one on the team notices this issue, lives could be at risk. Fortunately, as a team of qualified localization managers, you knew to ask about the intricacies of working with the Khmer language when the project started. Prior to translation, the translator and the desktop publisher carried out testing to ensure that the correct font was used. After testing, the content was translated, and then a qualified desktop publisher formatted it. The file was passed through internal quality checks before being sent to the translator to obtain the translator's final approval. Here is a note from the final check that the translator performed. They say, "Perfect, you're good to go now. After a long project, this message is a welcome relief. You can now deliver the product to the client, confident that target users will be able to use a dangerous piece of heavy machinery safely." That's the confidence that comes from working with qualified professionals across all stages of the localization production process. That concludes this localization safety warning. Note, a Khmer translator was paid to recreate the font corruption pictured in versions of the safety warning presented in these slides. Thank you to V2KO for lending his expertise to these educational materials.